In this video, we are going to review the concept area of computational thinking. We are currently on the NYSED Curriculum Instruction, Computer Science, and Digital Fluency Learning Standards page. You can navigate to this site by either using the link that is in your course, or if you Google NYSED CSDF, it'll be the first choice for you to click on and get to. So what we're going to do is we're going to scroll down on this page to the very first bullet that says New York State K-12 Computer Science and Digital Fluency Learning Standards for all grades. If you are not familiar with the site, I highly recommend you watch the first video that was located on your Canvas page. That's going to go over the navigation. But let's click on this link and open up the PDF. Down the left-hand side, I'm going to actually scroll till we get to the computational thinking area. You will find screenshots in your prior module for this page that goes over the 4 sub-concept areas. I'm going to take a moment and just review these 4 with you as we dive into the standards. The first one is modeling and simulation. This one is talking about using models in real world ways so that we can take a look at and understand data in order to understand what it's telling us or to be able to make predictions. Within data analysis and visualization, we're thinking about ways that we can organize the data that we've collected into ways that can be understood. In abstraction and decomposition, we're looking at 2 big concept areas, which we'll go into the vocabulary a little bit more in a future video. But here we're thinking about reducing complexity. So when you're talking about abstraction, you're saying, what are the parts that I need to make sure that we understand what it is we're trying to say? And then with decomposition, we're really breaking down the parts. We're thinking about each step in a process or looking at the steps in the process to make sure that we understand it and we can explore and correct any bugs. With algorithms and programming, we're talking about the actual code that we might use in programming or using coding language, and we're talking about some basic programming. Now, rest assured, they're not expecting you to be coders or computer scientists in order for you to be able to do these standards in your classroom. What they're really looking for is that your students understand a process. They understand, first, next, last, and they understand how a computer will actually read and understand what to do based on what you type in. So really we're giving them a foundation. If they want to go much more in depth into computer science, they'll probably be taking a computer science course. So now I'm going to scroll down to page 24 of the PDF. So if you're following along, scroll down to 24, where we're going to take a look at each of these standards. We're going to start with the first standard, which is modeling and simulation. And you'll see that there is one standard for this concept area or for this sub-concept area. At the beginning for kindergarten, it starts with thinking about patterns, which is something we typically do at grades K1. So this isn't something that might seem all that difficult. We're just going to start to think about it in terms of computational thinking. As we move up to 9 through 12, we're thinking about making a model that can help predict our outcomes. So this is something where we're going to collect data and do something with it. Please pause this video for a moment and read the standard for your area that you teach, and make sure that you read the clarifying statement, which is the area you see in bold underneath the standard. The next area we're going to look at is data analysis and visualization. There are 2 standards for this sub-concept area. In these, we're really looking at what we could collect for data and how we can organize that data. And then in the next standard, we're thinking about how we can present this data or be able to visualize a complex set of data. So here we're really thinking about what it is that we're collecting. So it could be surveys and sensors and polls and that sort of thing. But as we get into the higher grades, we're really looking at larger data sets in order to make sure that we understand the concepts there. The next one we're going to move into is abstraction and decomposition. There are 2 standards for this sub-concept area. Here we're looking at how we can identify a problem and break it down into multiple parts, or how we can decompose some sort of data set or a problem and identify the parts that we need in order for us to organize and solve that problem. Again, it gets more complex as we move from kindergarten up through the high school ones. But here we really want to think about how we're going to look at the information we have and organize it into a way that makes sense for us. Or if you're doing this as programming, a way that makes sense that the computer can follow what you're asking it to do. Finally, we have algorithms and programming, and you can see we have 6, 7, 8 and 9 and 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 standards for this concept area for algorithms and programming. So this is the largest area that you have in all of the computer science and digital fluency standards. Here we're going to start with the basics of what an algorithm is. We're going to think about how we can identify the different parts of our information. We're going to think about identifying the steps to be able to build or remix some sort of algorithm, how we're going to debug or understand or refine the code that we might have developed. And then we're going to think about how we can make those steps work. So we're really thinking about some of the basics of programming, but also thinking about the things we already do in our classroom where we have to think about a series of steps in order to solve a problem or to do something. So these computational thinking standards really do fit very well into many of our classes that we already teach, such as PE. You could talk about it in art, you could talk about it in math, science, and absolutely in English and social studies. So you're going to find that as we dive into some examples, some of these parts you already do, but you may not use it with this language, or you might have to go a little bit more in depth in order for you to really hit the computational thinking standards. So I highly recommend that you pause this video or stop the video and take a look at these standards in their entirety. I would highly recommend you look at your grade level that you currently teach. And then I would look at the standards below and the standards above so you can see where they should be coming to you understanding and where your students need to be able to go when they get to the next level. Now we're going to go back to the main web page, and we're going to scroll down till we get to the standards examples. We're going to dive into this more when we get into seeing it in action, but I wanted to bring your attention to the fact that it's here. If you scroll down to page 10, you're going to start the computational thinking standards for area. So you're going to be able to see that there are different examples for each of the standards. You're going to see that there's at least one for each of the areas that we have for computational thinking. So I would highly recommend that you take a pause as you're reading those standards to take a look also at what the standard is asking us to do, or look at this example that somebody across the state, which was an educator, that put together for us to see what it could look like in action. You'll note that you'll see that sometimes they mention what subject it can fit in. For example, here I see ELA, I see arts, I see math, I see science. So you're going to be able to take a look and see where these standards could fit within your classrooms. Below the standards at a glance, or I'm sorry, the examples are the standards at a glance. So you're welcome to take a look at your concept area just to be able to see it in a different view. And then you can also take a moment and look at the Smart Start Grant artifacts to again see what they can look like in action, which we will explore more in the next module. So again, please take a moment and go through the standards, take a peek at them, and then we'll dive even deeper in the next video.